is the Stagger Podcast.
Those guys are idiots.
Welcome into the Stagger Podcast. What is up? I am JD Smith.
And just like many of you who may have been DraftKings millionaires at one point today, but ended up with $1.50, I'm Derrick Smith.
I think their name is not Derek Smith, though.
Their name is not Derek Smith, but my name is Derek
you.
Smith. And at one point, I thought like I was going to have to, retire from work and live off of my DraftKings winnings for the rest of my life, invested in GameStop and AMC and all those fun things like that, and have our own Stagger race team. And then that quickly left me heartless, like hopeless with the $1.50 from all of my troubles this week.
Welcome to daily fantasy sports. It can be rough out there, especially when there's as much chaos as there was this weekend at the Daytona Road Course. And buddy, was there chaos. So we'll get into all that. Plenty to talk about there. We promised this last time we did a podcast. It's been a while since we've talked any IndyCar news. I will tell you, IndyCar fans, what we are going to talk about does involve some NASCAR news too, but we are going to talk some IndyCar this week because we do love IndyCar and we haven't talked enough of it on the podcast. So that is coming up as well.
But that's not our fault that they only have a 4-month-long season. I mean, let's be honest. It's not really our fault.
But that season...
That they literally don't try to compete with anything. Spring training, we can't compete with spring training. That's a little bit too much. NHL playoffs, can't compete with that. We get this window. May to like Labor Day. We got that.
Yeah, that's their time. That's right. Well, and that's the other thing too is
I know COVID threw that up for the league.
Well, I'll just say this, like the IndyCar season this year, it's going to be legit. There's 7 or 8 guys that could win this whole thing. And so it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about that. And we will do that as we get closer. And we'll have a little IndyCar news today. But of course, we're going to talk a lot about the road course at Daytona. I put a poll up on our Twitter, which of course you should be following us at Stagger Podcast, because, we have lots of little fun things that we talk about there. We occasionally tweet things out that are of interest, maybe if you're a racing fan. But of course, we tweet all the links to the podcast so you never miss it. I put a poll up, though, that just said, did you enjoy this weekend of racing overall? And 94% of the respondents said yes. So let's just point out that as much as there have been some people who had some hot takes and some things where they said, I didn't like this, or I didn't like that, or this shouldn't have happened, or why did this occur? The reality is, I don't know about you, Derek, but I thought this was a pretty good race weekend. I enjoyed the races that I got to watch and really enjoyed the action going around the Daytona Road Course.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't like Daytona racing? Who doesn't like Daytona racing with lots of excitement? Who doesn't like Daytona racing with drama and people getting mad at each other, people vomiting in their helmets? I mean, this is a cornucopia of, it's a buffet of good racing. And we got to witness a lot of it.
I don't like
weekend.
Food references next to vomiting and helmet references.
You can't get vomiting without food.
Well,
that doesn't happen.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, because here's a crazy thing. It was such a crazy weekend in NASCAR that I don't know if this story makes the top 5 of things that have been talked about, but it should be up there as the number one thing. Everyone needs to talk about this. Daniel Suarez vomited in his helmet. Vomited in the brand new Trackhouse helmet that is very cool and has a lot of like awesome imagery on it. It's a very neat helmet. But he did vomit in his helmet. He said with 25 laps to go in the race, he started to feel ill. And then with 15 laps to go, he vomited in his helmet. And he said, yes, didn't obviously like no way to avoid doing that if you've ever seen how a helmet works. And I want to point out that 15 laps in,
it's like a whole stage.
At a road course, 15 laps is an eternity just for anything. Like if you had to go to the bathroom or something. I mean,
all the cautions too.
Oh, with all the yes, of course. So, I mean, 15 laps. Things. This guy vomited in his helmet and had to drive around smelling. Oh,
a couple things.
He needs his own trophy for that. I think we need to make a Daniel Suarez bodily fluids in memoriam trophy because he is surely the Iron Man of that particular situation.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things here. A, if Trackhouse said, hey, does anyone want this helmet? Would we put that in our new studio?
No.
Okay, no. That's what I figured. I just want to make sure.
I love that helmet, but no.
Okay.
By the way,
that email right
by the way, if the people at Circle B Diecast get the bright idea of like, hey, anybody want a race warrant? No. Do not put vomit chunks on the in and outside of that helmet. No, I will buy a mini helmet. I will buy a replica helmet. I will not buy that. So please do not. I don't need that one to be lifelike. I'm good with that one being just a standard issue replica. That's fine.
That's true. And the second thing that comes to mind in this whole scenario is yes or no, Daniel Suarez may have went to the Hooters at Daytona Beach, and that's where the whole issue stems from.
You never know. You never know.
You never know.
I mean, you don't want to throw the name of like Hooters. Hooters has, I mean, they have good wings. I mean, they have good wings. I would hope you don't vomit when you go just because you go to Hooters. I would hope it's got to be something else. Maybe you had a stomach bug. Maybe you might have a stomach bug. He could have had Caribbean Jerks or Krabby Joe's. Maybe he spent too much time at Biggins. You just naming restaurants? Are you looking for a sponsorship? What's going on here? Are you trying to? No, that's the opposite way to do it, by the way, is to name them next to someone vomiting in their helmet. You're just pointing that out. I was just naming random Daytona businesses that stick out in my head, like the strip club called Biggins. Is that a strip club in Daytona? That's a strip club in Daytona called Biggins. Nice. I did not know that. I was in Daytona this summer and drove by it, and I was like, huh. They had people like had signs up like, let us have our business back. Because it was the pandemic, obviously. Right. Yeah. Because we were looking to hang out on a patio and get away from everybody. So that's what we did. And so we did you go to the Biggins patio in May to go to Florida? And we were like, oh, I mean, they're gonna be fine too. It's like fast forward 4 months later. It's like, oh yeah, right. Yeah, it's still going on. So, yeah, still going on. Yeah. So yeah, it's a tough deal. Yeah, but I we're joking because Daniel Suarez is the one who tweeted this out, who made mention of this, so that's why we're having a little bit of fun at his expense. If he was really seriously hurt, he'd be in a hospital and we wouldn't be hearing about it right now. Well, obviously, no. I mean, he tweeted about it, so he's fine. Other than the psychological damage that comes with smelling your own vomit for an hour or whatever it was. Does he have to clean out this Trackhouse is a new team. Yeah. Does he show up at the shop tomorrow and clean out the car? Well, that's always been the thing when people talk about like, what do they do when they go to the bathroom? Well, the answer is that some of them will go in their suit or go in the seat or whatever. But the rule is supposedly that you have to come back to the offices the next day, and when they remove the seat, that's your deal. Is you got to clean all that out of it or help them throw it away or something. I mean, if I'm a NASCAR driver, I'm like, how much does a new seat cost? Here you go, bet I'm paying that. Yeah. I'm not cleaning anything. Show me where the bolts are. I'll help you unbolt it, and then it's out of here. Like throw it in the trash can. Well, I do have this question though about the process, because the last driver I knew that threw up in their car was Kyle Petty. He talked about it, and it was open face helmet era Kyle Petty. Right. So he moved his microphone off to the side, threw up between his legs, kept on going. No problem. He's fine. That's totally acceptable then. Now it was a family run team. And we have some family-run teams. Well, not family-run teams, but family members that are on teams right now. Well, you do, yeah. I mean, so I think he joked about the fact that he had one of his cousins clean it up because it's like, hey, man, I'm sorry. Name's on the building. So now, well, what if that guy's like, so's mine. I'm just not allowed to drive the cars. Like, I mean, Maurice Petty was still a Petty. I mean, he obviously was a big part of that team too back in the day. Absolutely. He wasn't Richard Petty, but he was still a Petty. Yeah, it's just funny the way he does it. And then they're still to this day, like there's certain things happening with family members that you don't think, after what happened today, to fast forward to here and just get away from the vomiting. I mean, there were some crazy incidences that happened. Christopher Bell won the race. Well, we will, but there's always storylines that we'll get to. Well, we'll talk. Let's talk about the actual race, because I think we've covered the Daniel Suarez vomiting incident enough. If everybody hasn't already lost their lunch, Pitbull's gonna be like, "Excuse me, what did he do in our car?" I was not told this is part of the ownership group. I did not know this was a thing. I didn't know that happened. So, all right, we've got it all out of our system now, just like Daniel Suarez. Hey, and we're back. All right, so let's talk about the man of the hour, Christopher Bell. Obviously, he got his first win in a Cup Series vehicle. Didn't get one last year in his rookie year. And I'll tell you, man, I think that last year broke a lot of his confidence. If you heard him after the race, he said it was one of the worst years of his life. He talked about how frustrated he was not to be able to get nearly the finishes that he thought he was capable of. And there were questions. We talked about it in our preview episode of what we thought about this guy. And we both thought that he was going to find a way to get a win. but certainly that the pressure was on him to perform now that he's in better equipment. And man, he delivered in this race. I mean, we can talk about how he got to that point and how the door opened for him, but you got to take your opportunities when they come in this sport. And he got an opportunity, capitalized on it, did not miss a turn, and did exactly what he had to do to secure the victory. So congratulations go to Christopher Bell. We're big fans.
And he tried. Joey Logano tried. And not only did Christopher Bell get him heading to the white flag, he gapped him almost by a second by the time they came back around.
Yeah.
I mean, Joey Logano left it all on the track, and Christopher Bell was just the better driver of the day.
Well, and Joey Logano said after the race, and I know this is the case, like he didn't go for tires the last pit stop. And Christopher Bell was one of the guys who did. His
brakes were shot.
Yeah. So, I mean, he did mention that as like, I wish we just had one previous lap. If we had one extra lap of caution, maybe we would have been door to door at the line as opposed to, I think he was trying to save up his stuff for, the final lap. And then by the time Christopher Bell got to him, it didn't matter. He just didn't have anything left. But yeah, man, we've talked about Christopher Bell on this show. You and I have both. I mean, we've been to dozens of dirt track races over our lives, if not hundreds. I mean, certainly we've been to a lot. But Christopher Bell has been at, I don't know, probably, I've seen him probably run a dirt car, no joke, a dozen times or more.
Yep.
And never fails when we've seen him at local tracks show up. He is just as pure as it gets in a race car driver. It's him and Kyle Larson for me. I didn't get to see Steve Kinzer, in his prime. I didn't get to see Sammy Swindell in his prime, even though of course he still runs. But like as far as the big name guys that I've ever watched run dirt cars,
Rico Abreu.
Well, you can have Rico's great. David Gravel is obviously great. Donnie Schatz, the legend, right? But
the law firm, Parker Price Miller.
Yes,
Parker
PPM,
Price,
my guy.
him too.
Yeah, I will tell you though, of all the people I have watched run a dirt car, whatever you want to throw on it. If you want to go late model, you want to go wing car, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson. Those are the two guys.
Yes.
Those are just for me. Those are the two best I've ever seen. So we knew the talent was there. But we've also seen Kyle Larson struggle in this series to get to a point where he could get the finishes. And Christopher Bell found a way in his second race to get that monkey off his back. And I think that's a huge deal for him going forward. We haven't even got to the ovals yet, and who knows what these Gibbs cars are going to be like on the ovals. He may be a lot better there this year because of the power difference and all the other aero stuff that goes into it. They know how to set these cars up. So you might be looking at him winning multiple races this year now that he's already got one under his belt. But yeah, that's a pretty good feat for him.
And this is the first non-Daytona 500. I know we're still at Daytona with this race, but the first non-Daytona 500 race of your Joe Gibbs official Cup career, and off you go with a win.
It's amazing. That's
pretty spectacular. And I mean, he's got no pressure for the next 24 weeks.
Yeah, really.
Weeks. He really can just kind of work on his package, and which sounds kind of weird and dirty, but he can work on getting his car up to speed at all the tracks.
Yeah.
And he can focus on advancing through to the final because there will be a road course in the final 10 races. So.
And you know who else is probably feeling real vindicated right now? Although I'm sure I heard him after the race. He didn't want to say it. He just said it's all about Christopher Bell, but you know who his crew chief is? That is
Adam
former
Stevens.
Yeah, it's Adam Stevens. Formerly,
tough guy.
Yeah, formerly
tough guy.
Kyle Busch's crew chief. They parted ways this offseason. And, there's Ben Bayshore is now taking over for Kyle Busch. And I'm sure the results will eventually get there for him.
Yeah, when he doesn't wreck or ruin his front clip on the first lap, that's not Ben Bayshore's fault.
No.
That may not even be Kyle Busch's fault.
No, it's just the nature of putting all those cars on that turn one, on the road course there. It gets real narrow real quick. And so if you don't lift and you don't give, everyone thinks they can squeeze in and make it. And unfortunately for him, it did not work. But but I'm sure Adam Stevens feels a bit vindication too to say, hey, I took a rookie driver second year driver, almost, rookie, and we helped him get a victory. So I'm not as bad as everyone may have thought last year. It's not all on me last year. Mm-hmm. We still have practice for a lot of these races, and I got my driver into a good spot. So I think he probably feels some
work on his package in the race.
Hey man, and now a lot of guys. Michael McDowell's working on his package. You know, I mean, you got a lot of guys working on their package.
Jeez,
got a lot of guys working on their package. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right. So
he's got Drew Blickensderfer working on his package. Tell you that much.
All right.
Okay, we're done.
I think we're good. But I will say, for Christopher Bell, we're happy for him, and yeah, feel good. Now, it is not unfair to talk about that, just like we talked about Michael McDowell last week and how good it was for him, and a lot of people in the garage are very happy for him. A lot of NASCAR fans felt good about this guy. So you can have all those feelings for various reasons, although Christopher Bell's not a huge underdog, right? He's running for Gibbs. It's not like he's a, nothing, small team. This is the big deal. This is what you got to do. But we can also acknowledge that the guy who was the best in this race for the majority of it was once again Chase Elliott. He is still the king on a road course. He had the best car and the best drive of anybody there up until a caution came out. And that caution has become very controversial because the caution came for rain. And the rain was intense for the few moments it was blessing the track with its presence, but it was definitely not the type of rain that was going to soak the track, was going to make it at risk of losing the track. It in no way, shape, or form was any justification for putting on rain tires, even though all the teams started pulling them out. So I thought there was something on the radar when I'm watching the race. But they threw the caution flag. A lot of people mad about that because that is viewed as, in part, what cost Chase Elliott his chance to win. Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that, I may have won $4 in DraftKings. But
this is the most important thing. I'm glad we keep bringing it up. It is the most important thing to take out of this.
Everyone wants to learn about everyone else's fantasy results. I mean, that's why you tune into the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. Of course.
I mean, yeah, of course. But no, Chase Elliott's going to be fine this year. When I heard you talking about Michael McDowell winning, Christopher Bell winning, no one saw Michael McDowell winning the 500. That does have that Trevor Bayne fluke that happens once a decade where you get a guy who you don't think could win or can win, goes out and wins. And then if I'm not mistaken, unless McDowell got punted the last few laps, he was up in the top 10 towards the end. So where did he finish?
He did finish top 10. He
finished top 10.
He has 2 top 10 finishes now to his name.
As does Ryan Preece.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive. He has an 8th place finish for Mike McDowell. Let's give the rundown real quick. Christopher Bell was first. Joey Logano was second. Denny was third. Denny Hamlin. Kurt Busch was fourth. And we'll talk about him and this other guy, Brad Keselowski, because they both had wild rides and both ended up in the top 5 somehow. Kevin Harvick was 6th. The Dinger was 7th with a top 10, so good for him. Michael McDowell, as we mentioned, was 8th. Ryan Preece was 9th. And rounding out your top 10 was Alex the Showman Bowman, making it happen. So there you go. There's your top 10.
Yeah, and with that, you have to think about who are the drivers now that Christopher Bell is locked in. And Michael McDowell out of left field is locked in to the playoffs. There's only 14 more drivers that can make this field.
Well, we will definitely talk about that because, yeah, you're right. I mean, we can go through that. It's not even
March yet.
No, man. Ryan Preece, by the way, is not just – he didn't just have 2 top 10s. He's 7th in points right now. That's big for that team. It's not likely to stay that way, but huge deal for them to have that. Michael McDowell's 6th in points. So Christopher Bell is sitting 4th now, and he, like you said, is locked in along with Michael McDowell. Let's just run through the guys real quick that are in the. I'm going to give you each driver. You tell me if you think you project this guy to win a race. We're going to see how many we come up with here. Okay.
Okay.
Denny Hamlin. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Joey Logano.
Yes.
Kevin Harvick.
Yes.
Chase Elliott.
Yes.
Ryan Preece. Probably not.
No.
Okay. Kurt Busch.
Yes.
Okay,
that was my initial reaction.
All right, Kurt Busch.
Now, hold on a second.
Austin Dillon. I'm keeping count. Austin Dillon.
No.
Okay. Brad Keselowski.
No.
Cole Custer.
No.
Kyle Larson.
Yes.
Bubba Wallace. I already know.
Yes.
MTJ, Martin Truex Jr.
No.
You don't think MTJ is going to win in one race? He was pretty good today up until he wasn't, but his car was. They got like 5 more road courses. You don't think he's going to win one of them?
I think he's done this year.
Wow. Okay. Corey LaJoie.
No.
Okay. Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
No.
Okay, now I named those names in that order because that is currently the top 16 in the Cup Series. And we came up with 7 names to add to the 2. So 9 right now.
We got 9 right now.
These are the guys that
let's say I'm wrong.
Here, hang on. Let me add a few more names that are not in the top 16 right now. Kyle Busch. You think Kyle Busch is going to win a race this year?
Yes.
Okay. You think Ryan Blaney's going to win a race this year?
Yes.
I know these are possibles, but Eric Almirola, you think could win a race this year? Okay. Alex Bowman, you think could win a race this year? Let's see. Chase Briscoe, do you think could win a race this year?
Possible. I'm going to say no for this.
Okay. William Byron, do you think could win a race this year?
Yes.
Okay. And then 2 more for you. Tyler Reddick. Tough start for the year for him.
Yep.
Okay, but do you think he can win?
No.
Matt DiBenedetto.
No.
Okay. I added 5 more to the
So we have
9.
14.
So that's 14 winners.
So now let's say you're not as down.
I think those are pretty reasonable, what you said and what I said.
Except for, let's face it, Bubba Wallace, people are gonna be like, "What is he smoking?"
Well, all right, but
let's say you're not as down on Keselowski and Truex as I am.
You could easily see 2 more.
So that's gonna be 15. So say take Bubba out, put those 2 in. So let's say, okay, now you got the 16th. You got 1 spot left. Corey LaJoie strikes Spire Magic with Daytona again. Tyler Reddick.
Tyler Reddick could certainly win one.
Cole Custer.
Bubba Wallace could win one for sure.
Could win one for sure.
I think, and we didn't even mention, I forgot to mention him, Eric Jones, theoretically.
Eric Jones could win a plate race, just like Bubba almost did a couple times in the past.
So it's not out of the realm of possibility.
One. And then who else was in there? You got Ross Chastain.
Yeah, well, there's other names too. I think the point is here, with 2 guys starting off like this, if we have one more really out there winner that we're not expecting,
that's it.
It's not it, but it's gonna. I mean, you have to have Kyle Busch. Only
Kyle Busch,
barely won a race last year, right?
Or Keselowski is going to have to not win a race,
pretty much.
And that's going to be hard for.
That'd be a shock. That would be a shock.
3 for sure could not win a race, and that would be very possible.
Yeah,
but all 3 not winning a race, highly unlikely. Especially 2 cars in the Gibbs camp not winning. That would be almost. Someone needs to look over their shoulder at that moment.
Of course, yeah.
Well,
and a guy that we think will certainly win one, as we mentioned, is Chase Elliott. He did not obviously get a chance to win one this time around. That late caution that people are mad about, with the rain, I think it is important to know the rule. I'm not saying we have to like the rule, but I think it's important to know NASCAR does have a rule on its books. Bob Pockers tweeted this out, legendary NASCAR reporter, who said, the rule states that once they've declared the race...
states that once the race is declared...
once the race is declared a dry race, meaning the start of the race is a dry track, not a wet track. If at some point rain falls on any portion of the track, then they have rain tires, then NASCAR is required to throw a caution out there to give teams the option if they need to change. Now, that caution was probably thrown, I think, for most people's taste a little too quickly, but the reality is Denny Hamlin said after the race where he could see the track changing color. Like it was turning a darker gray in turn 2, I think is where the rain was predominantly. And that's up on the banking, so I'm sure there was a legit reason why they did it. Again, you have to think about, for all the conspiracy people, like, do you think they're trying to keep Chase Elliott from winning races? Like, he's the most popular driver in the sport. This would be like them trying to conspire to keep Dale Jr. from winning races. Like, you can say, it's funny because I've seen people, I had a buddy of mine who texts me all the time, and, we're watching the races, and he's like texting me, he's like, this race is boring. It's so boring. It's just Chase Elliott again on a road course. So boring. And then they threw the caution, and he's like, I can't believe they're doing this to poor Chase Elliott. They're screwing him. And it's like, what? Hang on, man. They're not screwing him. It's just what happened. It rained. It's South Florida. All the teams saw it. They brought the tires out. There was a rainbow over the track. Like, everyone understood what was happening there. NASCAR has to throw the flag there. We could say maybe in the offseason they should review that rule and say it's at the discretion. You know, maybe a percentage of the track has to be covered. That's at NASCAR's discretion. They can have a little secret formula where they go, it's only in one turn, no big deal. Oh, it's 3/4 of the track. Well, we should probably think about this, you know? And we could argue whether even they should do that, because maybe they should just let the teams do like an F1, where if it starts raining enough, you decide to come in or not. But
yeah,
I legit think the reason they do it is because, unfortunately, F1, the regulations and the teams and the expenses are so much more controlled, and they're so much closer in everything. You look in the NASCAR garage, man, there's always going to be a handful of teams that are going to be like, hell yeah, man, let's run out there and see what we can do. No, we're not putting the rain tires on, we're putting the slicks on, man, see if we can get a lead, you know, and then that car is going to wreck and possibly wreck the whole field.
Yep.
Like, giving the caution at least gives everyone a good chance to really think this through before they just say, no, we're going to stay out there. It's not that bad. And then they take out half the field.
Yeah, everyone's got a cold wet in their shop. So, and on their pit box, there could always be a cold wet, and whatever that crew guy's name is that called that infamous race where it ruined Elliott Sadler's nationwide championship hopefuls. All those years ago, it still sticks in my brain, and I don't know why I'm bringing it up now, but yeah. Go watch that. But
yeah, I'll have to look it up. I don't even remember that one, honestly.
You don't remember that one? Okay, no. Well, since we're going to Homestead, I'll say it real quick. There was about maybe, I want to say 5 laps to go. Every car came in because it was at the end of the tire stop.
Yeah.
Every car in the championship finale at Homestead goes in to pit, except for the 72 unsponsored car of Cole Witt. Because the crew chief was like, go ahead and stay out.
I'm remembering this now.
Stacked up the entire inside line, and it was the year, I believe, that either Suarez or Dillon won. And that it was Elliott Sadler had been dominating that race, and and then shortly thereafter, I think the next year is when he raced at Colleague for a few years, or maybe it was a year or two after that. He raced for Colleague for a few races, I should say, and then he's just back. He's just done coaching baseball now. That's all he's doing.
Yeah.
So
that's I forgot about that. Yeah,
so that's why I always say that. Like, yeah, there's always a Cole Witt because, you know, sometimes there is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, in either case, so if you want to get mad about Chase Elliott not getting the chance to win, I mean, the reality is this: a lot of guys came in and took tires, right, and they went back in the field, and then they made their way forward. If I remember correctly, Christopher Bell took tires and then made his way forward. When you get in the back behind drivers on worse tires, things like this can occur. You know? So the other option is you stay out if you're Chase Elliott and say, we're going to be out there with a bunch of other like scrub teams, for lack of a better term. I'm not trying to be mean. We're going to be out there with a lot of guys who are going to be on similar or worse equipment than us, and they're going to be on similar tires. And so Chase is a better driver than those guys. He'll pull out ahead of them, and then hopefully the gap will be big enough that the other guys can't, and they'll get caught up in wrecks and all that other stuff. So Chase could have stayed out. He chose not to, and I don't blame him for not staying. I would have done the same thing that they did. They're talking about it on the broadcast, but this idea that like Chase Elliott was owed something in this, no, I mean, you had to drive through all that, and it sucks. He got caught up in some stuff, man. Ask Brad Keselowski about that. Ask Kyle Busch about that. I mean, a lot of these guys had to make their way up forward. By the way, Chase Elliott also got the benefit of all the points and everything, the way it's working out, that he started on the pole, you know? A lot of these other drivers like MTJ had to drive through everything, you know?
Yeah.
Ryan Blaney had to drive through everything. Despite those guys being pretty good, they had to, that's just the way the draw was. So, yeah, I don't feel too bad. I'm rooting for Chase Elliott most weeks, but I'm just saying I don't feel bad for him here. I mean, he said after the race, I had a few mistakes, too many mistakes, and the reality is he made a great save, got run off into the dirt and found a way to save it. I mean, we know the talent's there, and we know this guy's going to be in the mix for the championship. So, you know, it was an interesting finish. I don't think that NASCAR was trying to screw him over or anything like that. Far from it.
No, far from it. You're right. And I think that it's one of those deals that we're going to have Chase Elliott win the next 3-4 races, and we're going to all forget about this whole, you know, NASCAR conspiracy about trying to keep Chase Elliott from the victory lane because, we need to keep the Michael McDowell and Christopher Bell fans appeased, right?
Of course. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a big deal.
Although, did you see all the wheel hops today?
Of course, dude. It was all over the place, man.
I wonder if there is like the banana peel button that like the track, the race director has, and he just says, "All right, Larson coming out of the infield." Yep,
man, Larson had a bad one, didn't he?
Yeah,
Boy, he
did.
Overcooked that corner and slid all the way up.
So did was it Truex had a bad one too?
Yeah, he did.
Chastain, did he get turned or did he wheel hop too?
Yeah, Chastain I think had all of the above. I can't remember if he got pushed or not because that was the part where I got up and came back and then saw that he was just out of the race, which I had him in my fantasy lineup, so I was real thrilled with that result. But yeah, one of the things that in talking about all these other things I forgot to bring up is that the guy obviously that spun Chase that everybody rightfully so could be a little frustrated at would be Denny Hamlin. And do those two have any history of Denny spinning Chase Elliott in any races? I can't seem to recall.
I don't know what you're talking about.
At Martinsville, I can't see that.
Night race, Martinsville, historic first one. I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, that of course has everyone, talking about that, and that's fine. So it makes the sport go around, man. We're going to have these debates. Should Chase Elliott would he have just driven away from everybody? Probably. But how many races
Chase Elliott
how many races have we seen
race?
That happen, I guess is what I'm saying, where the best car doesn't win.
Yeah.
That's what makes NASCAR interesting.
That happens in racing all the time.
Absolutely does. Yeah.
That's why they have the phrase that's racing.
Yep, it is. Right. Couple other quick things here. Tyler Reddick, we will talk about because he got absolutely destroyed by his teammate. Did you see that? Austin Dillon ran him off the track. Now, he ran out a little wide and was trying to get back in, and I guess maybe you could argue Austin Dillon didn't give him any room, but boy, the two of them, that's an interesting one. That one's not getting talked about as much as the Brad Keselowski-Joey Logano thing, but I think it should because, he absolutely, Austin Dillon, could have just checked up, let him back in line, had, been a good teammate and helped out a guy who was, right there with him, just trying to bring in some points, trying to make sure that the organization does well. The organization that his grandfather owns, by the way.
Yeah.
And instead, he ruined a perfectly good race car.
Not just his grandpa, Pop.
Pop owns it. And, he destroyed one of Pop's cars that was being driven by Tyler Reddick, who didn't have the best day, clearly.
It's not his car, so Pop don't care as much.
I guess, man. All I know is this.
It's just a tax write-off.
All I know is that is something that I would be keeping an eye on, is the relationship between Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon, because I think we know who has more talent, at least in my opinion. Sorry, Austin Dillon fans. I think Tyler Reddick is a far more talented driver. I'm not saying Austin Dillon didn't deserve the wins he has, but I don't think that he is as good of a driver as some people think. Tyler Reddick, though, I do think is, and I think that he's got a lot to prove this year. And when you already had a bad start to your season at Daytona, last thing you need is another bad start to your season at Daytona on the road course. And he didn't get any help from his teammate. I'm sure all that can't go through Austin Dillon's mind at the moment. He's just trying to do the best he can. But yeah, he totally bumped his teammate off the track and ruined his day. That's where that fire came from, is after the damage he got from running through the grass. The other thing I'll say about running through the grass, so there's a level to it, right? Like if you run off the grass where Tyler Reddick did, you get destroyed. If you run off where like Kyle Busch ran off the grass, right? It can, jack up your whole front end. There are certain parts of the track where you cannot run through the grass there, but apparently Kurt Busch found the like cleanest patch of grass to run through of anyone, because he went off big time in the kink. Yeah. Like he completely botched that corner, hit the what is that? The rumble strips, I guess. Yeah, and upset his car,
the edge,
and he went all the way through at about one of the fastest parts of the track that's not on the banking, and somehow his car was fine, because apparently, I don't know, they mow that section down a little bit more. I have no idea, but he had a crazy ride, and like we said, ended up top 5. After all of that, he still found a way to the top 5. I was shocked by that.
Yeah, and his retirement tour that he's in, he's proven us all that he's still got it.
I guess.
He's proven Michael Waltrip wrong. Tell him he's fake news and everything.
Yeah, I guess he is. I don't know,
Ice, ice, baby.
Yeah, I still can't get over that video. That video is insane for many reasons. But no, Kurt Busch found a way to have a good run. And Brad Keselowski, who spun out felt like 12 different times, and he's usually not that great on the road courses. Brad Keselowski found a way to also get himself up into the top 5. So
yeah,
pretty shocking given like Logano was up there all day long. It was, I thought Logano, maybe MTJ would have had something for Chase Elliott if everything had stayed, normal, but didn't work out that way. And then yet Joey Logano was still up there, and his just, his tires and brakes faded at the end. But meanwhile, his teammate is, having a horrible day. It seems like he's all over the place, constantly off the track, and yet he ends up a couple spots behind him. That's pretty shocking to me that Brad Keselowski got to that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe it's because they had that talk. Maybe they talked.
Well, they did. They, according to both of them, they did have a chat, and they hadn't spoken all week, as everyone kind of made note of in the media. Mm-hmm. Brad says they're as good as they can be, which I think is pretty.
Jeez.
Well, he laughed about it. He was like, "Well," they were like, "So are you guys good?" And he's like, "Good as we can be, man." Just kind of did that. Like, yeah, I guess.
And that Michigan twang.
Yeah, yes, whatever the Brad Keselowski accent that I attempted there was. Yeah, I mean, he basically
he's got
said
this. It's weird. He's got a Michigan twang.
He does.
I don't know how else to describe it.
You're right.
Maybe it's the years in Charlotte that have kind of turned his Michigander dulcet tones into something.
Yeah, like some kind of southern accent. Yeah, and then Joey Logano's got the everything. Every A word is like cat. Fat. I sat down. Like he does that all the time. We're like, yeah, we were just running the back and just trying to.
I got second. Back.
I was trying to put a big gap in between them. Like that's just Joey's accent all the time. So in either case, they apparently worked it out as teammates. The reality is they're probably not going to like each other. Joey Logano gave a really good interview on SiriusXM. I thought that was pretty interesting, where he basically said it's like a marriage. At some point, you're in this marriage, you got to make it work. So are you going to just keep going around and keeping all these bad feelings? Or are you going to have this conversation with the other person? He's like, so we're going to talk eventually. And I guess it happened this weekend. So who knows? Maybe a top 5 for both guys helps them feel better coming out of Daytona and they move forward. But yeah, man, it's a little bit of a dicey situation for those two. We'll keep an eye on that throughout the rest of the season, but we'll see what they do at Homestead. Now, as one young race car driver I heard recently said, they'll be leaving Daytona and going to a real racetrack. Homestead is the next one up on the list. Speaking of that young driver, we will talk about him. He had a big weekend. We will talk about some IndyCar news as well, and that and more will be coming up next. You're listening to the Stagger Podcast. Welcome back to the Stagger Podcast. So real quick, before we get into the IndyCar stuff, are you aware of this little point standings right now that we talked about some point standings earlier. We talked about your top, your playoff rankings, guys who are in, guys who are out. But let me just give you this. I said Tyler Reddick had a bad points day, and it's not totally his fault. I think he got screwed over by Austin Dillon. Didn't quite give him some room to stay on the track. I don't think that was good. Tyler Reddick, though, through 2 races, now has 11 points this season. That puts him in the 30s. Let me get the correct number. It puts him 33rd. Okay.
Oh, please tell me an unexpected name that's above him.
Oh, I got it. Yeah. All right. But worse than that is Matty D. Matt DiBenedetto has 5 points.
Staring up at Quinn Houff.
Right, not 5 bonus points, as Larry Mack used to famously say. Just 5 points is all he's got right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Quinn Houff has 9. And Quinn Houff, by the way, went out after, 3 or 4 laps? I think they said he had an engine issue. Like, he barely even got the race started, and then they pulled him off the track. I don't know if that was just because the car was bad. I don't know. But either way, he has more points than Matt DiBenedetto, and he barely ran this race, and I don't think he ran much of the last one.
No, he had some trouble with Daytona. But yeah, I wonder, because you know how they told Christopher Bell not to burn down the engine?
Yeah.
I believe they're trying to do an engine cap for the road course racing.
Yeah, they are. They have to use the engines again.
I can see Starcom saying, hey, test this out. We're here once. We need this engine for Coda.
Well, that could be, for what it's worth.
Or-
The
or they
official
legit could have had a
story
engine.
was they had an engine issue.
Yeah.
The engine. I don't know if it was failure. Engine issue.
Quinn Houff, someone I picked to win the race apparently in one of the pools I was in because I forgot to fill it out.
There you go.
So
That's how that works.
The loving friendship people, the friends at Dick Trickle Racing put Quinn Houff as my prediction for the race. So thank you.
There you go. That's
I appreciate that.
But the guy who has more points than all those guys is Josh Bilicki with 14. And
No, I've always said Josh Bilicki has a tough name to say, and now he's tough on the track too.
yeah, that's exactly.
I've always
said that. I've always said
Well,
about.
we've always said that.
I've always said about Josh Bilicki.
If Austin Center keeps up his streak, he may take over Brad's ride, and Bilicki may be in the Wood
That
Brothers
could be.
next year. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. So
What
these are
if
the
Josh
things that we have.
Bilicki and Drew Blickensdorfer worked together, and it was the Bilicki-Blickensdorfer team? I think that would be quite the deal.
Working on their package together. It'd be unstoppable.
It'd be an unstoppable package. I agree with that.
Y'all want to see what our Blicky's doing today?
No, I don't want any part of that.
I was trying to talk about like engineering data.
I'm just talking about Josh Bilicki. What do you?
Josh Bilicki.
Right. Let's talk IndyCar because there's some good stuff coming out of IndyCar that we have not been able to talk about. And we'll talk more about it as we get closer to the season starting. But this news came out this week, and I think it's worth a mention for all the NASCAR fans that listen as well as the IndyCar fans, because a big name in racing is now connected to IndyCar. That is Dale Earnhardt Jr. Yeah. He has joined the ownership group of the Music City Grand Prix. So they announced that. He is among a group of owners that also includes Justin Timberlake. JT is part of that group too, so very nice. But here's what Dale Jr. had to say. He said, "I've been excited about the Music City Grand Prix since I first heard about it. It'll be an incredible event combining great music and racing in one of my all-time favorite cities. I'm excited to be a part of the group and look forward to not only this year's inaugural event, but great racing in Nashville for years to come." Now, why is that a big deal? I mean, I don't know, Derek. Maybe you have thoughts on that, but I have them as well. What do you think about that announcement?
It's the continuation of this blending of IndyCar and NASCAR. So it's making me happy as a racing fan because I love IndyCar and NASCAR. And IMSA, all the sports that we talk about, all the forms of racing of American racing that we talk about, and F1. So, I'd love for Dale Jr. and people like this, Roger Penske, to continue deepening those ties between the two sports. But I also think, and I know that Dale Jr. is a smart businessman. So this is a good business decision on his end. And this shows that there's going to be longevity. It's not going to be a one-off event like the Houston Grand Prix was a couple of years ago. This is going to be an event that stays around for years and years, hopefully. But also, too, it's going to be really nice when Dale Jr. can make a phone call to the Nashville City Council, and say, "Hey, y'all, you know that fairgrounds track? Yeah, NASCAR. We need to get that race moved from the super speedway.
Oh,
that's cobwebs over to the fairgrounds.
They're going to do that. That's not.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, it's not going to hurt.
Well, yeah, Dale
Jr.
Jr. having a vested interest in that. That's fair.
And make sure they get to the right Nashville track in 2022.
I'm just saying, I'm quite sure the Nashville people, I think they also want that fairgrounds track thing to happen. It's not ready yet. They don't have it all finalized and done, but they'll get it done.
Still got dirt from the Outlaws from last year.
Oh yeah, well that's true.
I think so.
But you know what? That's where the new stadium is. The soccer stadium is right next door to that, and that's where I think some of the issues have come in. Is working
they
everything
just
out
there. Just pave the seats, make it a big old bull ring with the roof on it.
There you go.
We don't need
yeah. That's not an anti-soccer thing. That's an anti-Nashville FC thing because we're Columbus Crew fans. So yeah, we
are Columbus Crew fans. We are soccer. Massive, and it's our yellow first. You took our yellow.
That's right.
Give us our yellow back. You're not the yellow soccer team. We are.
That's right. We're coming for you. So another thing that's happening.
Stick a guitar up your. Never mind.
Okay. Another thing that's happening with this with the Nashville street race, which, by the way, if you don't know, they're running on the streets of Nashville. It's not a road course somewhere out in the hills. They are converting the downtown streets of Nashville into a street course for this event. But Elio Castroneves is going to be racing this as well as part of his deal with Meyer-Shank Racing. He was scheduled to run 6 races with Meyer-Shank, and one of them was apparently going to be at Barber Motorsports Park. Now that one is off the schedule, and instead he is going to go run at Nashville. So very cool. His program with Meyershank Racing, based in Pataskala, Ohio, right, not too far from you and me.
Etna to be specific, but yes.
Well, whatever. Yeah, I said it like Pataskala. Like people are like, oh, I know where that is. Etna, I have no idea. Like either you know or both, or you don't. But either way, so Elio's going to run the Indy 500. Obviously, he will also then go to Nashville. He will go to the IMS Road Course, Portland, which is another cool track that's on the schedule this year. Laguna Seca or Seca. Well, I don't know why I said Seca. Laguna Seca. Get a Seca Genesis. Laguna Seca and Long Beach. So that is his schedule. But very cool. I think that's another big name to add to this thing. When you look at the star power of IndyCar this year, my friend, it is Jimmy Johnson, Scott Dixon, obviously we've talked about as the GOAT, but there's so many good things going for IndyCar right now. And the fact that now Dale Jr. is going to have a vested interest in telling everyone, hey guys, make sure you watch the races. Now he already has, right? With running, he ran an iRace in an IndyCar. He's done a lot with the sport in that way. He definitely is passionate about it, but there's nothing that makes you more passionate about anything than having a vested monetary interest in it. So I'm excited for this partnership with him. I'm excited for Elio to run that Nashville race. Like, this is just going to add more star power to that already cool event.
Yeah, it most certainly is. And I think if you look across the IndyCar spectrum, you could pick and pull people out of that series, plug and play them into another series, and they're going to be respectable. I wish I could, I don't know what I'd have to do within reason, but I'd love to see Scott Dixon hop into even not obviously not a Haas car, that wouldn't work out for anybody, but it would be great to see him in a Racing Point car and see what Scott Dixon could do in a mid-tier F1 car. I bet you. Sadly,
I'd love to see it too. I just don't think that's in the cards.
Oh, it's not going to happen. It's not. But I'm saying if he did, you've already seen what Kevin Magnussen and Marcus Ericsson can do in an F1 car when they have good equipment.
Yeah,
they can score points. They can get up and mix it up, and in Kevin Magnussen's case, get a podium. So that's what the field is that you have in IndyCar. You got Takuma Sato, 2-time reigning Indy 500 champion. I mean, this is a big, massive field. It's a way different, and no offense to these guys, it's a way different field from the days of Simone Di Silvestro and EJ Viso, and good racers, but not world-class racers.
Well, and not just, and more than that, not as established of names. I think the cool thing with IndyCar, think about it, like how many former F1 drivers are going to be in the random IndyCar field? At like, I'm not talking at the Indy 500. I'm saying at like a road course, At
Mid-Ohio, you can see a 7-time champion. Mm-hmm. You can see a kart champion with Sebastian Bourdais.
Yep.
You can see the GOAT, Scott Dixon.
Yep.
You can see Mr. Mid-Ohio too. You can see F1 drivers Sato, Ericsson,
Romain Grosjean. Romain Grosjean is in the sport.
Grosjean.
Like the amount of like stars, legit stars that are just in this IndyCar series this year, it's going to be a blast. And to go to a random IndyCar race, name your track, man. Like it kind of makes me want to drive down to Alabama and go to Barber for the opener. I know that Elio won't be there, but I think everybody else that we just talked about will be. And I really have always wanted to go to Barber Motorsports Park. Maybe I'll have to make the drive down there. You know what's right outside of that, by the way, not to just totally derail, but you and I are fans of
Talladega.
No, it's not. It's outside of Birmingham, I believe, is where the Barber Motorsports Park is. I want to say in Leeds, Alabama.
Lloydus, yes.
Okay. Are you aware of the Buc-ee's convenience store? Because you and I are big fans of gas stations. We like when we travel. You talked about how
I can't travel without them. I'll run out of gas.
Well, all right. God, how last week we're talking about how you like the Love's Travel Stop. Well, are you familiar with the Buc-ee's brand of travel stops?
Anything like the Casey's General Store?
Dude, okay. Buc-ee's is apparently this convenience store gas station with 39 locations in Texas, Alabama, and Georgia, but they used to be just in Texas. They are known for having like somewhere north of 50 or 60 gas pumps at one stop. Okay, that's number one. Number two, The store, the convenience store, is like the size of a grocery store. They have, among other things, a jerky bar where they have fresh made beef jerky on site, like 20 different varieties you can get.
So you can just watch a guy make jerk.
Well, I think more it's just the fact that they have varieties of it freshly done that are right there for you with a lot of custom flavors. They have a fudge bar where you just walk up and they're making fudge all day. They're open 24/7. They have like food. What I'm saying is, I was looking up because I was reading about this the other day, and I'm like, where's the closest one to me? And it turns out it's the one that's in Leeds, Alabama, from you and me. That's like a 9-hour drive. But that one is right outside Barber Motorsports Park. So theoretically, we could go and knock off two birds with one stone. We could go to an IndyCar race at Skip Barber Motorsports Park, and then we could also go to one of the biggest gas stations in the world and check that out. And they are known for their award-winning bathrooms, which I know is a big thing for you. So that's what you got. I'm just saying, that's a huge deal. It's a huge deal, man.
It's so funny because like you did that today. You were looking up this today for what's this place called again? Bucky's General Store, Bucky's Convenience Stop. That's what you're looking up 9 hours away. Me, I'm checking flights. I'm going, oh, cool, Copenhagen. They got an 8.5-hour flight that I can get to. So I can get to Copenhagen in about 9 hours. That's not too bad. Oh, it's under 1,000. Okay, cool. Maybe
you're the international traveler of the family. I guess I'm more the gas station. I'm just on the gas station budget. You're the international flyer over here.
It's only 30 euros to get up to Stockholm from Copenhagen. Okay, we could stop in Malmo on the way.
I'm sorry, what'd you call it? It's not Copenhagen. What's it called?
Copenhagen.
Okay. Yeah, see, because you've been there. Yeah, Malmo, Copenhagen. All right.
Roskilde,
the point is,
which is the home of Kevin Magnussen.
Okay, you go fly to wherever you need to. What I'm saying is, I may just... Danish. I want to go to an IndyCar race this year, and obviously we have one at Mid-Ohio, but I kind of want to go to the season opener at Barber Motorsports Park. Like, I want to get down there.
You just haven't traveled at all. That's the thing. I mean, you've
no, I want to go to an IndyCar race and also to a giant gas station. Like, I want to do both. Is that so wrong? Why can't I have my dream?
Live your life. Have your fudge and your jerky too. That's what I say.
I feel like if I drove 9 hours, got out of the car, used that bathroom at a nice gas station, and then rolled into the track, watched a 3 or 4 hour IndyCar race,
and then
2 hour
had to stand in line at a Porta John.
Yeah, but then I get right back on the road. I mean, in like a 24-hour period, I could do all of these things and be back in just 24 hours.
You would fall asleep in Paducah, Kentucky so fast.
That's probably before that. I'd probably have to stop in Nashville and check out all the speedways that are happening. Nashville went from having like no functional speedways to now like the entire city is a speedway. I'm very excited about that. That's good for them. I'm excited about it. All right. So we talked our IndyCar. We'll talk more, of course, as the season gets nearer, but just know we love IndyCar and we can't wait for this season. It's going to be fun. Now let's switch gears and talk about the other two series in NASCAR that ran this weekend at the road course. Xfinity Series, Ty Gibbs got the job done. What a drive that was, man. He was phenomenal.
16th starting spot.
Yeah, dude. Okay, first of all, as we talked about, we did our DraftKings preview. We're going to start trying to do more preview episodes before the weekend, give you our picks and things like that. I did a DraftKings daily fantasy for the Xfinity Series, and I threw in, Austin Cindric. I threw in AJ Allmendinger, and one of the guys that helped me save money was that Ty Gibbs was like $4,500, and I was like, well, sweet, I'll throw him in my lineup. I don't know what he's going to do. It's his first Xfinity Series race, but it's $4,500. Let's see what this kid can do. He'll be in good equipment. Turns out he can go out and win the race, which is just a fantastic feat for him. So congratulations to him. He was phenomenal.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at what he's done, he's gone from becoming a household name in NASCAR, circles from his comment about, hey, at least we get to go to a real racetrack in Phoenix, for the ARCA Series and race again in a few weeks. That's what his comments was after last weekend's race, which we played on our show last week. And this week he goes out to Daytona in an Xfinity car, two steps up on the ladder, and goes out and spanks the field and gets a victory. Yeah. And so Martin Truex Jr. made a pass in turn 1 today in the NASCAR Cup race. And I think Clint Boyer was talking. He said, "Oh, he made a Ty Gibbs move." That move he made was
unreal. Well, he had a couple of them. He was just
but it's just
out of his mind.
First Xfinity race, and you've already got Clint Boyer, a seasoned veteran of this series, going, oh look, Martin Truex Jr., NASCAR champion, made a Ty Gibbs move.
Yeah, really. I know it was.
Think about how surreal that is. Go back 3 weeks from now, and I would say, hey, wouldn't it be crazy if if something was defined as a Ty Gibbs move at a track as big as Daytona, as famous as Daytona? Isn't that insane?
Oh, I know.
The race is only the second time they've done the Cup race on the road course.
Yeah,
but still, I mean, and he's gonna have a lot of growing pains to go through. But man, he is something special. And for the Gibbs family, having his uncle pass away recently, being his father, Coy Gibbs he's ran the back when Dale Jr. back when Joe Gibbs used to have the Supercross program. Coy was in charge of that. So
and Coy ran some, I want to say some truck series, some Xfinity. Yeah. He definitely was, a racer as well, driving
so
as well.
It doesn't, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, but it looks like this tree is already a little bit bigger and having more opportunities.
Well, and I've seen some people bring up, they're like, well, yeah, but Ty Gibbs is in great equipment. So what do you want him to do? All right, let's just real quick have a discussion about that.
So is Chase Elliott.
Yeah, dude, exactly. What did you think Dale Earnhardt Jr. was driving coming up, by the way? Like, what do you think not half of them, but how many of these guys were in pretty good equipment? Either if we're talking about, obviously, Joe Gibbs Racing kind of has the best garage, them, Hendrick, Penske, like you're talking about.
If we want to rate garage, well, that's a whole nother show.
No. I'm not talking about how they look, doofus. I'm saying like as far as the firepower they bring, they know what they're doing. They put together good race cars. But how many guys have we seen climb into a Joe Gibbs race car and put it top 5? Put it top 10. But to win in their first time out, do you want to know the list of guys who have done that in their careers in their first Xfinity start? You want to know the list of guys who have won their race?
Yep.
Well, there's like 5 of these guys where you're like, that makes sense. And then 4 of these guys who you're like, that makes sense. One guy where you're like, interesting that he's on here. So here are the 4 guys who won their first time out that you'll make sense in an Xfinity car. Dale Earnhardt, Ricky Rudd, Terry Labonte, Kurt Busch. The 5th guy is Joe Ruttman. Good racer. Not quite in the category of those guys, but Joe Ruttman, long time, good racer. But I'm just saying, now Ty Gibbs joins that group. Those are the only guys who have ever done it in the Xfinity Series. And all I'm pointing out is Dale Earnhardt Jr. made a debut in that series. Chase Elliott made a debut in that series. And so have, dozens of other drivers who had, similar pedigree and were in pretty good equipment
Mark
too.
Martin.
Yeah, I'm just saying a lot of these guys, maybe he did have some great
Shauna
equipment.
Robinson.
Now you're just making the most random Xfinity drivers you can.
I'm not gonna lie.
That's fine. The point is, though, Ty Gibbs, good for him. And whether you were a fan of his or not before, I'll tell you, man, watching that kid wheel it, I am a fan of anybody who can drive like that. He is a wheel man for sure. So,
and give me rich kids that can drive that don't have a silver patch in their head or a silver spoon in their mouth, and I'm excited to watch them race.
Sure. Well, but you know what though? He got the job done, but who is everybody excited about? Who would he have maybe stolen that victory from? Who did he beat in that race? Well, that's Austin Cindric. Does Austin Cindric have any well-connected people in
any
Penske?
Ties at all? I think they found him at the GoPro Motorplex down the street from Penske. That's how that happened.
Right, yeah. I mean, what are we talking about? Austin Cindric gets a ton of credit, and rightfully so, for being a road course expert and being a great driver. He won the championship last year. And his dad runs Penske pretty much, or is one of the key figures at Penske. So that's fine. The point is, this is a family business. People have known that for years. The Francis have run it. There are families that have, you look from the Pettys. That's another one that we could have brought up. We didn't. Did Richard Petty run in good equipment, or did he just have to shoestring budget this thing? You go as Dale Earnhardt, right? I mean, all these guys to some degree had some level of involvement in the sport before they ended up getting to where they were. So I mean, it's okay to have.
It's odd that a kid from suburban wherever or inner city wherever just says, "Hey, mom, dad, can I get a race car?" And they're like, "Sure."
Yeah,
they give him a race car, and then boom, he makes it to Cup. So That's
three of
happened for a few people.
the most popular drivers in the history of the sport are Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Chase Elliott. All three of them had dads who raced in the sport prior and had a good leg up in the system before those guys ever turned a wheel. So that's okay. You're allowed to do that is all I'm saying.
You're allowed to do that.
Yeah. So good stuff from Ty Gibbs. And I didn't hate that at all for him. The other real quick thing, we will talk Truck Series and then get out of here. But man, the Truck Series is fun this year. Ben Rhodes is 2 for 2. He won both of those races at Daytona, but he and Sheldon Creed had a nice little battle going there, and Sheldon Creed couldn't get the job done, but in part, he felt a little frustrated by what happened between the two of them, because he felt like when they were running, if you didn't see this race, so Ben Rhodes was by like, I don't know, not even a few hundred feet. He was about to take the white flag, okay, in regulation of the race, which is a weird thing to say. And they were debating whether or not to throw a caution flag because there was a wreck. There was some other stuff on the track. They ended up throwing the caution, and I'm talking like literally throwing the caution where if you're Austin Dillon, you're already got your hand out the window celebrating because he's not at the line yet, but he was about to be. And they had the white flag out. They pulled it back and waved the yellow flag. So he did not take the white flag. So that meant they had to do like 3 overtimes because they ended up having a bunch of wrecks after that. But Ben Rhodes was rightfully going to win the race, and then they had a bunch of wrecks. He ended up still winning the race. But he and Sheldon Creed, during one of the overtime segments, the first one, Sheldon Creed got ahead of him, and then Ben Rhodes bumped him out of the way. And Sheldon Creed felt like earlier in the race, he had raced Ben Rhodes cleanly, didn't bump him, and passed him the way you're supposed to. So he said, I'm not going to forget about that. Typical thing you hear from drivers, but Sheldon Creed's the champion, the defending champion. Ben Rhodes looks like he is well on his way to making a run at a championship this year. So nice little battle forming there between, a Chevy driver, a Toyota driver. Those two teams are pretty good, GMS versus Thor Sports. So I like to see that. I'm not saying that Creed is right. I'm not saying that Ben Rhodes is right. I'm saying I think that's a good battle for the sport, and that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think the thing with the trucks that they've had a lack of in the last few years, and I love the trucks, is they've had a lack of consistent rivalries in the sense that is Sheldon Creed going to all of a sudden go to Gibbs and take over Martin Truex Jr.'s ride? Probably not. He's probably going to be a Truck Series regular for a while, maybe some Xfinity stuff. Same with Ben Rhodes. Ben Rhodes is not going to work his way up the ladder. More than likely, he could. But more than likely, he's not going to land a ride at 2311 Racing, be the second car next year. These are guys that are going to be in the Truck Series, battling it out for championships. Now you add in Johnny Sauter. Now you add in Matt Crafton. Now it seems like back in the day when you had Ron Hornaday, Todd Bodine, Red Horse Racing, that whole stable of drivers, that made it really interesting to be a NASCAR fan and a NASCAR truck fan. And I feel like we're getting that back with this group of guys and gals that are racing. So I'm really excited for it. And the new rookies coming in, there's a lot of energy with the Truck Series, and I'm pretty stoked to see it. Yeah,
it was a good battle there between those two. Sheldon Creed also got hit by the guy who was driving Jordan Anderson's truck, who I don't remember his name, and I don't think we're going to have to remember it because I don't think that's going to be a guy you're going to see in that truck very often. But he was like dead last in that truck, and then Sheldon Creed was lapping guys, and this was during the rainy segment of the race because it did rain. They did start off with rain tires, actually. They put those on before the race even started. And so plenty of off-track excursions for a lot of these drivers. People were kind of taking a dump on the series and saying, there's nobody good in this series. And Denny Hamlin even chimed in and said, more road courses, kind of like sarcastically. And it's like, the Truck Series is where people come to learn, right? And these trucks are not easy to drive. They're not meant to be easy to drive. Same for the Xfinity cars. These are not made to go on road courses. But that's what makes this fun. And yes, the caution, I will say, what they think they should do, at least for the Truck Series, because it took them, dude, it was, they did the math on it. It was like 40% of the race was run under caution.
Really?
And part of the problem is because they run the laps, but then they run, like somebody wrecks, and then it's 3.5 miles all the way around under caution, and then you got to do it again to get everybody through the pits. Yeah. And meanwhile, it feels like an eternity just to do a
They should have
caution.
like a cheater lap that like
Yep.
They should
That's
just be able
exactly
to skip the infield. They should be able to skip for those rovals. I think they should be able to skip the infield.
Yes, I agree.
Like
they should have it set up so that you can just skip just run around under caution.
Maybe you do one lap to allow for a safety truck to get out there and pull the cones or something.
Yeah.
And then once the field goes by, you put the cones back up. You scoot back in the infield, could be all clear around NASCAR 3.
Well,
and
you know
4.
what you could do?
Boom.
You could count those as half laps too.
Yeah,
couldn't you?
laps.
Count them as half, so that way you don't affect like fuel mileage, and you could say like, all right, well, we realize we're running a shorter track here, so we're going to count this as a half a lap, and we're going to make sure we run 2 for every 1 we would have run on the road. But that'll be at least an easier way to run 2 of those, and that gets everyone through the pits. You know what I mean? And then you only have to run 1 actual lap of the race, not 2 or 3 or 4. And you get more into green. But the other thing they could do is just go local cautions. If someone's depending on where it is.
Too much sense now. You better turn this podcast off, because or else we're gonna be accused of doing some smart things that just talking out of our rear ends.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can continue to do that this week. We're gonna bring you some more content this week. We have a podcast that we are planning on having on Wednesday. We're gonna actually record it ahead of time, but we are going to, well, that's how podcasts work, go figure. But we're but when we get done with this, I think you're going to be impressed. We are going to talk to a member of a NASCAR crew, and that will be what you're going to hear on Wednesday's podcast. And then Friday, we are going to have another preview, because now at least the Cup cars and the Xfinity guys, I think in the trucks too, I can't remember. Anyway, most of them are going to Homestead, and we will talk about what that track brings. I am a big fan of watching the Homestead race. I know you are too.
I love it.
We're going to talk about the players that we think are going to be involved. It's a little different than the road course, clearly. So lots to get to there. A lot of content coming this week for you.
I've got one for you. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you.
Yeah, give me a prediction. You have a prediction for Homestead?
Yeah. If Kurt Busch wins the race on Sunday, he needs to just do a Forrest Gump and drive down the expressway down to Key West.
Go back to that bar. Yeah.
He just should. Yeah. And that's what he should do, and just ask for a monster on the rocks.
That's the celebration. You know what? No NASCAR driver has done that I am aware of, at least not in any recent time.
Drive right out the tunnel.
Just drive. Yes. Just like go past victory lane and say, I'm sorry, I can't be here anyway. Yeah. And they're like, where's he going? And he just drives out in the track and then goes out in the parking lot and does donuts. Could you imagine that?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Christopher Bell lost his opportunity to do that. So I'm calling Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, all you guys with your first NASCAR.
When you win your first race, drive out into the parking lot.
The damn tunnel.
Yes, drive out of the tunnel into the parking lot and do a burnout in the parking lot.
Yep,
first driver that does that, you will be our favorite driver of all time. So go do that for your first win. All the first time winners have a chance to do that. Yes.
I just picture someone in the Xfinity Series doing that at Mid-Ohio, and there's like a county road in Morrow County, Ohio. He's just sitting there and like an Amish dude's like, hey, man.
I'm sure there are tracks where that would not be the best idea. Like,
I'm thinking Daytona. I'm thinking Indianapolis would be cool, like 16th and Georgetown.
Oh, man. Go right out to the corner. The turn 1 corner, whatever those 2 streets are. Maybe you said
16th and Georgetown.
Yeah. Go right out to that stoplight by the Speedway gas station and just do some burnouts right there. Awesome.
Yep.
And then go to the pancake place and sit with AJ Foyt.
Charlie Brown's Pancake and Steak. Have I told that story on this podcast?
Yes, you have.
5 times?
But you know what? We'll tell it again when we get to the month of May.
We'll do it again.
Month of May, that's your time to do it. How about that?
Month of May, we should record from out there. Get that vaccine.
Dude, I want to get everywhere, man. As soon as we can get out, I'm going out for sure.
Yep.
We will have more to say about that. Until next time, though, thanks for listening. And as always, stay safe and stay staggered.